Welcome to the Heavy Spoilers Show. I'm your host Paul, aka the Mad Titan who wouldn't want to make Titan mad, and this video we're breaking down episode 5 of Invincible. There's a lot of change-ups from the comics, but also some cool callbacks and Easter eggs that I think are definitely worth talking about. The ending of the entry also leaves a lot of things up in the air, and it's a big deviation from the source material. Now the episode itself pulls heavily from issue 19 of the comics, however it expands far beyond what happened in that to give us a far more grounded look at Titan and exactly what he's fighting for. You may remember him as being the first villain that Invincible took down in episode 1, and whereas in the source material he merely met up with Mark and the two decided to take down Machine Head, here it's a much more involved look at his home life. We're going to be breaking it all down, but if you've been enjoying the coverage so far, then I'd massively appreciate the thumbs up, and don't forget to subscribe to keep up to date with our videos on the show. Now we open with Titan, who is named after one of the moons of Saturn. This very much speaks to his power set, and the character is able to encase his skin in stone. In the comics, we learn that this is very similar to the way that Johnny Storm does it, but instead of saying flame on, Titan says rock on. Now in addition to this, I feel that the anti-hero is very similar to Luke Cage, and we watch as this almost invincible man ascends through the ranks of organised crime at the expense of others. The opening action scene isn't anywhere to be seen in the original work, and it leads to a skull-splitting moment that shows how brutal of a bad guy that he could be. There's also a point where a thug shoots at him, and the bullet ricochets back and kills him instantly. I feel this is very similar to the moment at the beginning of Iron Man when Tony is escaping the cave, and it paints him out as completely indestructible. From here we jump back to another returning figure, and after Invincible busts up the bad guy from the ending of the first episode again, we watch as Amber waits on the character. In the comics, the pair had quite a strained relationship because he wouldn't reveal his secret, and this led to her constantly questioning what he was really up to. He tries to make things right by bringing her a Japanese cheesecake, and I just want to point out a correction from last time. In episode 4, we said he likely bought the $800 chest, but as many of you pointed out, Mark probably flew internationally in order to get it for a much cheaper price. Though Amber said he only went across town to get the cheesecake, he could have gone abroad as the guy can travel around the planet in mere seconds. Travel around stealing stuff, which is exactly what I would have done. Do boom, just in and out. Now cut to Titan exiting a burning building that he's just set fire to, and we see the homeowners angered over him destroying their property. Though he gives them money, this very much juxtaposes the following scene, in which we see Mark saving people from being crushed in their homes. The public love him, and he also fights a woman that I think might be based on Cheetah from DC, but I'm not 100% sure. Although he's beloved, it becomes clear that the hero life is causing havoc on his real one, and in addition to being late to meeting Amber, he's also late to work, and this leads to him quitting. In the comics, he actually walked out mid-shift, and he was worried that his father wouldn't approve of him just quitting his job. However, the character did it anyway to focus on being a hero, and Nolan actually wasn't too bothered about this, which was the first clue we got which hinted to him believing that he was above humanity and all their rules. From here, another parallel scene happens, in which we see Titan dangling a man over the edge of a building by his leg. This is mirrored in Mark and Nolan, who do something similar with a supervillain, but whereas Titan pulled the person in, they let him go. Omniman shows a complete disregard for human life, and we don't actually see him saving this person, though it's taken that he does. However, the show cleverly cuts away from revealing this, as in our minds, it further paints him out as someone who has a much darker side to them. Back at high school, Mark is stopped in the corridor by Principal Winslow, who's voiced by Reginald VelJohnson, aka Sergeant Al Powell from Die Hard. Be careful there, Mark. We all know how this guy loves to shoot kids anyway. Winslow himself does pop up throughout the story, and some minor spoilers here that you might want to skip ahead 30 seconds for, but have you gone yet? You don't care, do you? Winslow actually becomes the dean of the college that Mark attends, so it's nice that they have a conversation at this point about him going to one because it sort of foreshadows their future. Spoilers over for that bit. Now Titan's reign of terror continues, and we watch as he steals a microchip and intimidates the security guards into firing into the air, so it looks like they tried. Throughout the episode, Titan spares several people, and though the ending teases that he's gonna be the big bad, it does show that he has a softer side to him. Now it turns out the device he's stealing is for Machine Head, a Black Mask-esque villain who we learn in the comics controls crime across the entire country. Here it's scaled down to the city, but either way, he's a very powerful individual. Titan has been indebted to the character and has been acting as an enforcer in order to settle his debts, but the autonomous auto-tuned android has other plans. He threatens the character's family to keep him working for him, and we actually see Titan's home life. In the source material, he merely meets with Invincible, fills in what's going on, and the pair then fly off to Machine Head's office, which is where the big fight plays out that ends this entry. I love these closer looks at the character, as they carried with them a lot more information and really showed Titan in a far more complicated light. Throughout the entry, we discover that this microchip is actually a quantum probability device, and in layman's terms, this allows the bearer to see all eventual scenarios and outcomes from a certain starting point. It runs complex simulations to make it a fortune-telling device, and this allows Machine Head to plan for the attack at the end, which we'll talk about towards the final part of the breakdown. We jump to space to see Mark stopping an asteroid, and learn that at this moment he's meant to be meeting Amber's mother. Amber is clearly frustrated by his constant lateness, and just as he's about to tell her that he's a superhuman, he decides to bite his tongue. On his walk home, we see him kick a stone which takes off the top of a roof, and this moment signifies that though he wants to live a normal life, it's almost impossible. His father calls him to take part in some crime stopping, and it cements that this will always be the direction that he's pulled towards because of his abilities. He must sacrifice the things he loves in order to be a hero, and this is mirrored in Titan, who returns home to his family. His wife hates the fact that he's having to sacrifice the things he loves in order to be a villain, and the pair are really opposites of the same coin. Titan is living on the breadline, whereas due to Nolan being a hero that worked alongside the government, he's been funded to the point that his family can live a comfortable life. Titan is down in the gutter, whereas Mark is on high, and this is showcased in the former and his daughter watching Invincible flying high with a villain that we're just going to refer to as Elephant Man. Now, Elephant Man is of course a play on the Rhino, and he also appears in issue 8 of the comics, so it's nice that this scene gets some lip service here. Whatever way you look at it though, neither have the perfect home life, and we cut to Debbie in her cupboard, who discovers Damien Darkhold's notebook, which is based on the Necronomicon from the Evil Dead. We did theorize last time that this might contain the means to bring the Dark Detective back, but all it has are clues that send Deborah off on a path to discover her husband's bloodied costume. This is a complete diversion from the comics, and the reveal that he was behind the death of the Guardians completely blindsided her when it was brought to the surface. I much prefer her actually having some agency and piecing together things on her own, as it shows how much Omniman has lost the trust of those around him. Cut to Atom Eve, who is too having issues at home, and we see how her parents are angry that she broke up with Rex because he cheated on her. They worry that she's not someone who can protect herself and would rather see her with someone that basically treats her like crap than on her own. It really speaks to how everyone undervalues her, and in the comics she reveals that she doesn't even bother wearing a mask because even in her personal life no one sees her as anything more than an average girl. However, Eve is actually one of the most powerful people in all of the Invincible universe, and as she says, she's able to rearrange atoms on a molecular level. Similar to Scarlet Witch, the character can alter almost anything, and she's frustrated over being held back. Later she meets Mark and Amber, and after he dives out, the pair bond whilst helping out at a homeless shelter. Now this differs highly from the comics, as they never really had a moment like this together. In fact, the only real quality time that the pair shared was in issue 31, when Mark and Amber went to meet Eve at her home in Africa. Here, Eve talked to Mark about how he and Amber would never really see eye to eye because he was literally and figuratively up in the clouds while she was down on Earth. However, due to the many change-ups here, you realise that Eve has much more of a respect for her, and she clearly yearns to experience the normality that she has. Mark meets with Titan, and we learn the inner workings of Machine Head's operation, as well as his pet nat in crime Isotope, who has the ability to teleport. Mark has been focusing so much on the high-level crimes, he's completely overlooked all of this, and he sees that in order to be a true hero, he can't just focus on the bigger picture. We discover that Titan is using Mark, and this is initially pointed out by his father, who doesn't want him to help at all. Nolan again only cares about participating in things that threaten the world's security, and this very much speaks to how he's willing to let the people on the planet tear each other apart as long as the planet itself is okay. People who've read the comics will know exactly what this means, and if you want to learn more about what's going on with the character, then check out our Omniman Explained video. Debbie is clearly struggling seeing her husband in this new light, and she says people aren't who they appear to be. This clearly suggests she knows the truth about Nolan, and she is the one who talks Mark into helping Titan. At the Guardians headquarters, we see a scene that isn't in the comics, and it actually sets up a lot of what's to come. The Guardians are just chilling out, and they clearly don't take things seriously, which annoys the original member Black Samson quite a lot. He tells them that they fight as 6 individuals rather than as a team, but this falls on deaf ears, which bites them in the butt later on. Another change up is that Monster Girl says she's 25, whereas in the source material she's 29. But pointless detail that, but just thought I'd point it out. She also says that she's lost a week, and in the comics we discovered that every time she turned into a monster, she actually became younger whilst it grew more and more grotesque. This inspired Robot to help find a cure for her, which further led him to attempt to enact his own plan, which we'll discuss later on. He eventually ends up recruiting the Maulers, cementing that they're skipping over the bit about them resurrecting the Immortal, and now going straight into the storyline involving Robot and the thing we saw in the tank at the end of the last episode. One thing to bear in mind here is that the cloning process we see the Maulers enacting makes a complete duplicate of someone's mind. This means that the mind isn't transferred, it's not shifted across into another body, and instead it's simply a copy. This is something Robot wants to exploit, and throughout he shows a lot of humanity towards Monster Girl. When she later gets badly beaten up, it's clear that he's in agony over it, and we see another side that solidifies his objectives. Now we discover that the Lizard League were the people that they were fighting against, and these are inspired by the Captain America villains, the Serpent Society. This fight scene itself actually appeared in issue 9 of the comics, where Mark went head to head with them. Saved by Atom Eve, I appreciate that they show the incompetence of the new Guardians, rather than just having it be something that shows Mark once more, because let's face it, we know quite a lot about him already. Now cut across to Debbie and Nolan arguing, and we learn that the former was very much the one that instilled humanity into him. It very much speaks to Viltrumite culture that he had none of the kindness or warmth that we've seen him display until he met her. We know there is a much darker side to him, and you can sort of start to see the pieces fall into place as we learn more about them. Viltrum was a society that went planet to planet throughout the galaxy, making them align with their ways. Nolan said that they had achieved the height of civilization, where there were no wars, murders, or any crimes. They wanted to pass this order onto every planet, and as we know, Nolan came to Earth to try and instill those values into us. However, because of this, he hadn't experienced certain sides of humanity, and these two cultures are very much embodied within Mark. Debbie gets Nolan out of the house, perhaps inspired by Cecil, who last week tried to send him into space so that they could investigate his dealings whilst he was away. She gets him to fly to Europe and discovers the bloody clothes, implicating him further. The episode wraps up with a big battle between Titan, Invincible, and Machine Head Syndicate. Amongst these are Battle Beast, who in the comics is described as the Scourge of Twin Galaxies. He's a master at combat and can travel across twin galaxies, I'm guessing. Now, we also have Magna Attack, Krusk, a Russian secret weapon with electricity powers, Furnace, who we're told just looks cool, Magmaniac, a living furnace, and lastly, the Tether Tyrant, who I feel is a play on Dr. Octopus. Not really, but it has tentacles, and with many arms, I'm sure the guy is good at reaching, just like I'm doing now. Now, like the comics, the Syndicate completely kicked the crap out of Invincible and Titan, leaving the latter at death's door. The Guardians arrive, and Battle Beast still easily beats them and then leaves, realising that they're no challenge and it's pointless even wasting the energy. However, where things change up is that we see Omniman looking over this, and though he could step in, he allows it to play out. With this event coming much earlier than it did in the comics, they've reordered it to show Nolan is willing to see his son suffer in order to prove a point, further showcasing how bad he can be. The action is once more awesome, and there's some super gory moments, including Black Samson getting absolutely pummeled by Battle Beast. Monster Girl is also left with her skull on display, and this causes Robot to quote-unquote break character and display emotion. Now this changes up things a bit from the comics, as it wasn't Monster Girl and instead it was Bulletproof who ended up getting his head smashed in. However, I think they did this to tease us something else was going on with Robot, and it also showed how much he cared about Monster Girl. He fires a full blast out of what I want to call his arc reactor, and the Guardians go Super Saiyan, easily defeating the majority of the Syndicate by working together as a team rather than as separate individuals. Black Samson and Monster Girl do survive, but it's clear that Robot is going to be pushed into helping her in order to bring her back from the brink. Now with Mark being badly injured, he's unable to help Amber, and earlier in the episode he did ask for one last chance. I can see him having some splaining to do next episode, as he likely won't recover from this anytime soon, and will probably have to finally decide whether to divulge to Amber about his extracurricular activities or just keep them a secret. At Machine Head's office, Cecil and the GDA cleanup team arrives, and he removes the quantum probability chip. At the end of the entry, we discover that the GDA are actually studying Mark's blood, which they take at this scene in order to find out a weakness for the Viltrumites. Neither of these moments are in the comics. I feel that the former is done so that Steadman can work out the best strategy to take Omni-Man down. A catchphrase in comic culture is that Batman can beat anyone if he has prep time, and that of course includes Superman, who the Dark Knight has beaten on several occasions. Thus I think Cecil will be doing something similar and working out all possible eventualities in order to beat him, and they will prepare his kryptonite through studying Mark's blood. Like I said, this is completely omitted from the comics, and he doesn't discover the truth about Nolan until it's too late. Here the agency feel like they have a lot more, agency, and I can see Debbie possibly helping them to fight against him. At Machine Head's office, we see that Titan has now taken over the position of a crime boss, and alongside Isotope and his family, he now rules over the city. This is of course similar to the ending of the final series of Luke Cage, though the comics came before, and there are moments in it which make him seem very much like the Kingpin. Now we will be talking about some spoilers going ahead involving Robot, so if you don't want anything ruined, then I recommend that you turn off now. Okay, you still here? Well, last week we saw a strange looking humanoid in a tank that Robot bowed to. This is actually Robot himself, and his true name is Rudolph Connors. Rudy controls these drones, and in the comics, after hearing Monster Girl's plea, he decided to fix his condition. With help from the Maulers, he was able to clone Rexplode, and then he duplicated his mind into that body so he could live somewhat a normal life. Now Robot eventually ended up reversing Monster Girl's condition too, but with the way things are going, I think he could potentially carry out the cloning process on her as well. She's badly beaten up, and that would make the most sense to me, as he could also fix her condition through this method. Now I've done a full breakdown on Robot's mission in the comics if you want to check it out after this, and obviously I'd love to hear your thoughts on the episode too, so make sure you drop them below. As a thank you for interacting with the video, you'll be entered into a prize draw on the 30th of April, in which we're giving away 3 copies of Zack Snyder's Justice League on 4K. All you have to do to be on the chance of winning is like the video, make sure you subscribe with notifications on, and drop a comment below with your thoughts on the episode. The winners of last month's competition are on screen right now, so if that's you, then message me on Twitter at Heavy Spoilers. If you want something else to watch, then make sure you check out our breakdown of Robot's full mission, which will be linked on screen right now. We've gone over the entire thing from top to bottom and talked about his true plan, so definitely give it a watch if you have any questions. With that out of the way, thank you for sitting through the video. I've been Paul, and I'll see you next time. Take care, peace.